So a friend of mine, the same guy who ran that estate sale buyout shop that I worked at off and on, stops by the other day, drops off some old gaming stuff, which included these two Xbox 360s, and I thought, that might be fun to mess around with. Might be more fun to make a video about, so let's take a look at them. Now, neither one of the units is in too good a shape, but I'd say this is the better looking of the two. Pretty scuffed up, but not too horrible. I've seen worse in 360s. Of course, the door flaps broke, and both of them are missing the hard drive, so what you gonna do? But the one cool thing about it is, you'll notice, no HDMI. This is actually a launch unit manufactured on November 3rd, 2005. So I thought that was pretty cool. And this one actually works. The optical drive doesn't want to open. I'm going to have to mess around with it. But when you power it on, it actually goes to the dash and functions. So, a working launch unit. How common do you see those? Often enough, I'd guess, if someone takes care of it. But, yeah, this doesn't look like it's been that well taken care of. Now, this unit is where things get a little bit more interesting. And I'm not going to spoil all of it here. Let's just take a look at it. Now, you'll notice it's black. This isn't an Xbox 360 Elite. This has been spray painted pretty crappily. And with it flaking off and being all spodged, it looks just terrible. Of course, the door is missing. That actually broke when I was trying to take the cover off for the first time to check if this thing had been completely opened or what had happened. Should have been obvious that it had been. Both of these units have been opened, by the way, so it is what it is. Otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward 360, dated mid-2008, so it's actually about the same era and probably going to be same motherboard type as my particular 360, so that's cool. Now, this unit actually boots into an E74 error, and I've gotten it working before, but it started messing up on me again, so a little bit later we're going to try to see if we can get this unit working again, because like I said, it's got something interesting about it. Nothing too special, but worth examining. For now, let's take another detailed look at the first unit. Alrighty, I've got the 360 we'll be playing around with on top of the one we won't be using, just so that we have some decent airflow. I don't want to completely destroy these things. Got power hooked up, video hooked up, got the screen feed being recorded, so let's see what happens. Go on and push the button, and the optical drive pops out. You see the unit boots fine though, and it boots to the more modern Xbox 360 logo, and after a little while boots into an older version of the Xbox 360 dash. Try closing this one more time, and you see it constantly says closing, opening, closing, opening. If we try to close it with the controller, we get the same result. So whatever case, this is definitely a more modern version of the Xbox 360 dash, but beyond that, nothing too special. Looks about how I guess it would have circa 2011, which looks to be when this dash is dated. In fact, if we go to console settings and system info, we'll get all the info we need on this particular unit. And hopefully you can hear me over the fan, because the fans are ramping up inside of this thing. It's not getting super hot right at the moment, but, you know, it just got turned on, so what do you expect? Otherwise, it looks like a pretty straightforward, normal unit. The only problem is this drive won't stay shut. Let's go on and look at number 2. Can you tell it really doesn't want to lock that optical drive up? And that's how it shuts off. Beautiful. And now that brings us to the ugly one. We'll go on and power it up, and you'll see exactly how it wants to behave. And there we go, booting to an E74 and the one red flashing quadrant. Yeah, this faceplate has been spray painted as well, but the light does show through well enough, so There's your typical E74. Now, that's usually a good indication that the system has had someone try to do a mod to it somewhere and something's touching or something's messed up. So that really made me intrigued with this unit originally. What I did was I tried to take it apart, and I mean, I've read instructions, I've looked at videos. It's still such a pain in the ass, and this was at like 2 in the morning. I just said, forget it, I don't care. What I did decide to do, instead of opening it up once I got the half of it I disassembled back together, I was wondering, what would happen if I tried the towel trick on it? Because it works. It's a temporary fix, as obvious with this, but it might work and at least let me see what's going on with this unit. I really got intrigued though when I decided, when I was opening it up, I was thinking maybe I could swap the optical drive from this one to this one. Once I opened it up and saw that it had a burned copy of NBA 2K9 in it, that started making me think something is definitely up with this console. Now, before we go any further, and no, I don't care that this unit, or this particular type of unit, hasn't been made in 5 years, I still want to stress that you don't want to do this to your actual machine. The only reason I'm doing this is because these were donated to me because they're worthless. They were junk to the guy. I have fun messing around with this kind of junk. You can and eventually probably will destroy the console further by doing this, but it's a fun little thing to mess around with when you do get it working. So if my main 360 goes on the fritz, whatever. I'll just fork out the cash and eventually buy a new one. I don't think it will though, because it's held up since 2008 just fine with the previous owner, and it's done fine by me for hours of playing, so why not? But this little bugger, why not? What's the worst that could happen? What you do though is you go on and wrap the thing up in a towel so that it heats up. And that's a craptastic job, but it'll do what it needs to do. Go on and power it up, and just let it slowly sit there and heat up. Now, of course, after a while, the unit should start getting pretty hot. Giving it a couple of minutes to cool, let's see what happens. Once again, it helps if the power strip is turned on. And we're still at an E74. Okay. That's cool. I guess I'm just going to give it another run with the towel trick and see what happens. Alrighty, it's taken several attempts to get this thing to boot, and it's very temperamental, so I'm recording what I can while I can, and I'm going to try to do a secondary boot after the fact. If we go on into system settings, and console settings, down to system info, you can see the information for this dash build circa 2009. And if we back on up and just sort of explore, I mean, it's definitely an older build. Got a whole lot of the Xbox Live theming going on, similar to how, the Xbox Live packaging on games was back then. Otherwise, a pretty straightforward little design. Got the same welcome dash as the other thing. What's interesting is that the guide has the blade design to it, which I recall being a very early 360 feature. Now keep in mind, back when the 360 was new and for about the first, really up until very recently, I didn't like the system. I was actually wanting to get a PlayStation 3, but that never happened. So I eventually wound up only this past year getting a 360, an old used one, mind you, because the opportunity came up, and I thought, hey, why not? I had started to like what Microsoft was doing gaming-wise and liked what they did with the Xbox, so I thought, why not get myself one? Now, let's see if this will actually want to reboot if I power it off, then power it right back on. I'm hoping it will so I can record the opening screen for you. There we go. Different from the one that we have on more up-to-date Xbox 360s and the Xbox One does when you have Xbox 360 games playing on it. Otherwise, nothing too special about this unit except for the fact that we were going back to the burned copy of NBA 2K9. If we go on and place the game in the console, got my controller ready, of course, head on up to my Xbox, it will hopefully start reading the disc. Now right now it's treating the disc as if it's both closed and open, so what I'll do is I'll power it off, make sure this is shut, power it back on, and see what'll happen, because the optical drive on this one's been acting up as well. And there goes an E65 error. That's a new one. That is a new one to me. I actually don't know what that error is. Let's take the disc out for now. Power this off. Power it back on. See if it wants to boot. And back to E74, so it did its time. I'm not going to drag this video out any longer than it needs to be. I might not spend too much more time on this, maybe do another video trying to show it. Long story short, from what friends told me, it looks like the unit probably has a flashed optical drive, which apparently lets you play burned games, which is kind of cool if the unit worked okay. But old broken Xbox 360s are an absolute pain in the ass to do anything with. That's all. Thanks for watching. I wish this could have gone a little better. I'll catch everyone next time. So this is just an additional segment to the video. I've been trying to fiddle around with the optical drive, get it to pop out and get it to act right. It's acting about as bad as the launch era Xbox 360. There's no way I can get the disc in, but I do have it at least working enough that I was able to record the whole dash, at least as it exists, so it's at least working to that degree. It's not acting too stupid on me right now. Again, I'll see if I can get this to record, but who the hell knows when this thing's going to want to work right. Anyway, once again, thanks for watching. Catch you next time.